Deep in the Sahara's forbidden Sahel region, death is the only constant under the desert moon, where a hidden government facility lies buried beneath the shifting sands. But inside, the perimeter guards have no idea their final moments are already ticking down, because Jiang Hao is moving through the shadows, silencing them before they can even draw a breath, and with brutal, calculated precision, he dismantles their formation in the dark. While his partner questions the weird lack of security along the main corridor, Jiang Hao stays focused, tracking the target indicator that points straight ahead, until they finally reach the reinforced entrance ready to secure the objective. So they step into the vault, moving deeper into the belly of the facility, where they find the item waiting on a storage crate. But a sudden, chilling realization hits them the second they look down. Because the entire setup is nothing but a deadly, rigged trap, and the detonator is already counting down from 20 seconds, screams erupt as Jiang Hao realizes they have to move. Even as the corridor walls start to buckle under the incoming blast, his subordinate tries to force him to escape, sacrificing everything to clear a path. Jiang Hao screams for him to move, but his partner holds the line, pushing him back toward the exit. Time hits zero in a flash of red light, and the entire facility erupts in a massive, earth-shattering explosion. News of the disaster spreads online like wildfire, confirming the total annihilation of the Wolf organization, and the internet is already buzzing about the supposed death of the legendary Wolf King. But the truth is far from those rumors as Feng Wanaming emerges from the rubble, alive only because Red Wolf sacrificed himself to ensure his survival during that hellish mission. So now he hides his immense power while living as a regular citizen to avoid unwanted attention, yet a lingering connection to his past keeps him from fully walking away, forcing him to finally return to the place he once called home, where he hails a taxi to head toward his destination. And the driver makes small talk about his reason for visiting this particular area, oblivious to the fact that his passenger is actually connected to the powerful Feng family. The car pulls up to a grand estate surrounded by a flurry of activity, with Feng Wanaming telling the driver to wait for him while he handles some business. And he steps out, looking up at the imposing gates that mark his roots, noting the unusual crowd gathered for what seems to be a major family celebration, finally standing before the entrance to the Feng residence, when two guards block his path, demanding to see his invitation. So he calmly stares them down, unfazed by their aggressive posturing, informing the guards that he is there specifically to see Uncle Feng, and he produces a photograph of his own father to prove his identity, leaving the guard to realize the striking resemblance in the photo before him. Feng Wanaming hands over his father's medal, confident that this token will finally grant him entry, and the guards immediately defer to his request, rushing off to inform the master of the house. Meanwhile, the estate is buzzing with a lavish engagement party for Feng Yian and Wan Jiaming, with the bride-to-be laughing off concerns about her future status within the Feng family, just as the host raises a toast to toast the union between the Feng and Wan families, while Feng Yian and Wan Jiaming stand side by side to accept the well wishes of their guests, and the entire room echoes with cheers as everyone celebrates the strategic alliance. Until an urgent interruption forces the host to step away from the center of attention, as the guard presents the medal Feng Wanaming provided to prove his identity, causing the master of the house to freeze as he recognizes the heirloom instantly, and he demands to know why a representative from the Jiang family would appear today, while his daughter questions why her mother is suddenly so agitated by this unexpected news. Because the daughter refuses to let her sister be pushed into a sudden, mysterious marriage, so the master orders everyone to remain seated while he personally goes to meet the visitor, and he finally comes face to face with Feng Wanaming standing at the edge of the estate, letting out a massive grin as he realizes exactly who has returned after all this time, while Feng Wanaming politely brushes off the man's concern. And Uncle Feng pulls him into an emotional embrace, clearly overwhelmed by the reunion, asking after his old friend while they stand together in the entryway, before Feng Wanaming delivers the heavy news that his father passed away a decade ago. Uncle Feng is absolutely floored by the sudden revelation of his old friend's death, and he immediately starts blaming himself for the hardships Heiazi suffered over the last decade. But Heiazi brushes off the guilt, explaining he is only here to fulfill his father's final wish, so Uncle Feng listens intently as the kid brings up their long-standing childhood agreement, just as the rest of the family emerges from the party to see what all the noise is about, led by the aunt and Yian, who are clearly confused by the unexpected guest at the estate, and Uncle Feng tries to bridge the gap by introducing Heiazi to the women from his past, causing Heiazi to exchange polite greetings with Sister Yian, while she smiles back, though she admits her memories of him are pretty much a blur. But Heiaming immediately jumps in with a hostile attitude, questioning why the kid is really here, and he starts accusing Heiazi of trying to leech off the Feng family's status, shouting that Yian is already spoken for and belongs to the Wan family, so Uncle Feng finally snaps and orders his son to keep his mouth shut. While the tension in the room hits a breaking point, and Uncle Feng confirms to everyone that a childhood betrothal actually exists between the families, leaving Yian completely stunned by the news of her own engagement. But Uncle Feng insists this agreement is a sacred promise he intends to keep, which leaves the entire group reeling as they process the weight of the father's dying wish. so Heyazi steps forward to clarify that he has no interest in getting tied down. And he tells Uncle Feng point-blank that he wants to cancel the marriage for everyone's sake. Heaming explodes, accusing Heyazi of social climbing and demanding he be kicked out, and he actually tries to get physical, but the family members have to step in to hold him back, while Feng Yian dares her own father to beat her to death if he insists on this arrangement, asking how he could possibly sacrifice her happiness just to honor a selfish promise. Uncle Feng refuses to budge, declaring that a 20-year-old commitment is far too important to break, leaving Feng Yian in tears as she lashes out at him for being a terrible father, and she storms out of the room entirely, forcing everyone to watch her go, while Uncle Feng tells Heyazi to stay put, promising that he will sort this mess out personally, but Heyazi is already looking to sharpen his own skills and focus on his own path. Heading off under the moonlight to find some solitude away from the family drama, and he begins his breathing techniques to push himself into the next stage of his transformation. While back inside, Uncle Feng questions if the family is really set on forcing this marriage, admitting that the guilt over Heyazi's father's death still weighs heavily on his own conscience, though Heaming argues that breaking the promise would destroy their standing in the city. And he insists that forcing Feng Yian into this union is the only way to save face. Since the entire city is watching and waiting to see if the Feng family keeps their word, Uncle Feng finally decides to take control and find a way to make the situation work, approaching Heyazi with a new proposal that comes with 3 very specific conditions, requiring a 3-month trial period to observe his character and demanding he become a live-in son-in-law. So now Heyazi has to decide if he will accept these terms to finally put the matter to rest. Uncle Feng decides to swallow his pride and handle the situation with Heyazi directly, while Heyazi continues his intense training under the moonlight to stabilize his internal power, sensing the weight of the family's expectations even while he tries to focus on his own path. And when Uncle Feng knocks on his door, Heyazi immediately pauses his meditation to answer. Throwing on a shirt before welcoming the older man into his room for a private talk, where Uncle Feng brings up the marriage proposal and the complicated history with Feng Yian, but Heyazi calmly accepts the terms of being a live-in son-in-law without any hesitation, leaving Uncle Feng visibly moved by the kid's willingness to help the family save face, so they reach a mutual understanding that keeps the peace for the next 3 months. And after Uncle Feng leaves, Heyazi reflects that he is only playing along to leave the city eventually. Meanwhile, at the Wan family estate, the atmosphere turns volatile as news of the engagement reaches them. Wang Yudong loses his temper completely, slamming his desk while demanding the engagement be cancelled, and he makes it clear that a wedding ceremony in 3 days is absolutely out of the question, insisting that the Feng family cannot just back out of the agreement to suit their own needs. Despite Uncle Feng attempting to de-escalate by offering to withdraw from the Anqin district project, Wang Yudong flatly rejects the peace offering and threatens to ruin the Feng family's reputation citywide, ordering his staff to escort Uncle Feng out immediately before the situation escalates further, as the tension spills over into the city's neon-lit nightlife district where the drama spreads. Heyazi sits in an internet cafe focusing on his own digital intel while the world falls apart. And he uncovers a breaking news report that could change everything for the families involved. Heyazi digs deeper into Pan Yunbai's background, realizing the S-rank master is being hunted for a massive bounty, and he uncovers the brutal truth that Pan Yunbai went rogue after assassinating a wealthy scion who raped a student, sparking a realization for Heyazi that his master's close friend was driven by a righteous but deadly code, while the digital files reveal a darker turn with the rise of Sirius as the new Wolf organization leader, triggering a flash of recognition in Heyazi as he remembers his predecessor, Red Wolf, and the betrayal that ended him, prompting him to vow that he will hunt down the traitor responsible for that setup, and he promises Red Wolf's memory that he will uncover the truth behind the assassination at any cost. Stepping out into the cool night air to clear his head, he decides to stay in Wuling City a bit longer to gather more intel while keeping his profile low. But a van screeches to a halt right in front of him, blocking his path. 2 thugs jump out and demand he get in the vehicle without making a scene, pulling out blades to force his compliance. Yet Heyazi barely flinches at the threat, quickly analyzing their amateur moves as he considers playing along, pretending to surrender while he keeps his true identity hidden from these random street punks. He gets shoved into the back of the van where a young woman is already tied up and gagged, trying to keep his cool while the thugs shake him down for pocket change, and he flashes a knowing smile, wondering exactly what these goons are planning to do with him, listening as they dismiss his lack of cash and insist that he is worth far more to their mysterious employer. The van speeds off through the city streets toward an unknown destination, arriving finally at a secluded, high-end estate that looks like the perfect place to start digging for answers. Uncle Feng sits in his study while his subordinates report on the kidnapping investigation, demanding to know if there is any progress on finding Yayo, but his men admit their informants have turned up absolutely nothing, so Uncle Feng orders them to prepare the ransom money immediately regardless of the cost. Yet his son argues that liquidating assets for 500 million will cripple their current projects. suggesting they should try to negotiate the price down to 100 million instead, which earns a sharp rebuke from the other brother who calls that suggestion completely irresponsible, and the argument escalates as they bicker over whether they would pay the full price for each other's children, until Uncle Feng slams his hand down to stop the childish bickering, declaring that he does not care about the money as long as Yiao is returned safely, ordering his family to secure the funds by any means necessary. While at a remote industrial site, the van carrying Heihazi and the captive finally pulls into a dark warehouse. The thugs drag their two prisoners out of the vehicle and into the dim, shadowy workspace, where Heihazi keeps a sharp eye on their surroundings while still keeping his hands bound. One of the kidnappers rips the gag off the girl's face, and she immediately screams for help, desperate to alert anyone nearby of her situation. A thug mocks her terror with threats of violence, telling her to stop fighting if she wants to live, but she continues to struggle and snap back at them, refusing to be intimidated by their sadistic taunts. The boss impatiently tells his underlings to cut the talk and start filming the production as they set up a camera rig to record their next move, leaving Heihazi watching for his opening. The lead kidnapper presses a blade to the girl's throat while mocking her defiance. Another thug adjusts the camera rig, fully intending to record a cold-blooded murder. Heihazi watches the scene unfold, his expression hardening as he calls them out for their cruelty. The thug laughs off the accusation, confirming their plan to execute both prisoners regardless of the ransom. Chaos surrounds them as the kidnappers continue to berate the girl and demand her final desperate pleas. Heihazi keeps his cool, goading the thug with a promise to deliver his final message to the family. Questioning the necessity of killing when they could just take the money and leave, the thug edges closer with the blade, mocking Heihazi for bragging while standing on the brink of death. Heihazi agrees with the sentiment, noting that someone will indeed be paying the ultimate price tonight. His eyes narrow with lethal intent, making it clear that he has no intention of being the victim. The underling laughs at Heihazi's apparent stupidity, dismissing the threat entirely as he moves in. Another thug decides he has heard enough and charges forward with a massive blade held high. Heihazi remains unmoved, coldly warning him that even the King of Hell trembles when he decides to act. The attacker lunges with a downward strike, fully committed to ending the confrontation right there. The girl looks on in shock as the blade descends, but Heihazi counters with terrifying speed, slamming a fist into the thug's throat before the steel can land. The attacker collapses instantly, leaving the remaining kidnappers reeling as they realize the tide has turned. Heihazi does not hesitate, taunting the group as he prepares to deal with the one pointing a gun at him. A heavy metal pipe skids across the floor toward his feet, and he snaps it up in one fluid motion, ready to finish what they started. Heihazi swings the heavy pipe with enough force to turn the air into a weapon, slamming it straight into the gunman's chest before he can even pull the trigger. The remaining thugs swarm in a desperate, last-ditch effort to take him down. Gunfire erupts in the cramped space, but the bullets find no purchase on their target. Heihazi weaves through the chaos, dispatching the attackers one by one with brutal, calculated efficiency, their morale completely shattered as they realize they are no match for this level of violence. One final thug attempts to open fire, only to find himself staring at a nightmare. Heihazi looms over him with a predatory grin, answering the man's terrified inquiry with a chilling silence. A single crushing strike brings the final resistance to a permanent halt. Dusting off his hands, Heihazi makes a quip about collecting his fee for the night's work. He turns his attention toward the girl, finally offering to cut the ropes that bound her. Catching the falling blade midair with casual precision, he deftly severs the bindings, freeing her from her captors. She stammers out a thank you, but Heihazi brushes it off, insisting he was never really here. Stepping out into the night, he leaves the scene just as the authorities finally arrive. The girl reunites with her family under the moonlight, the ordeal finally behind them. She collapses into her grandfather's embrace, overwhelmed by the sudden safety of his presence. An officer approaches them to take a statement about the mysterious savior. She describes a middle-aged man in his 40s, completely missing the true identity of her rescuer, leaving Heihazi to fade into the shadows, his secret identity perfectly intact beneath the night sky. Miss Jin sits before her grandfather, who immediately calls her out for lying to the police about her rescuer. She admits she saw his face but refuses to betray the man who saved her life. Elder Jin warns her that the Jin family's prestige demands caution, questioning if that savior had any ulterior motives. Dismissing her grandfather's concerns, Miss Jin is sent to her room to recover from the night's trauma. Alone in her room, she still wonders if her mysterious savior was truly acting out of kindness. Meanwhile, Elder Jin meets with his subordinate to discuss security for the girl. He tasks the man with ensuring no further mistakes happen regarding Miss Jin's safety. Beneath the calm exterior, Elder Jin demands a secret investigation into the identity of the person who killed the kidnappers. Across the city, Heihazi utilizes his skimming shadow steps to navigate the streets at high speed. He arrives at the Feng residence, slipping through the gates with practiced ease. Stepping into the hall, he finds the family gathered and immediately draws their attention. Heiyaming erupts in anger, outraged that Heihazi would dare show up so late. Challenging the boy's status, Heiyaming demands to know if the Feng family rules allow for such tardiness. Uncle Feng tries to intervene, but Heiyaming insults Heihazi's lack of status and background, comparing him to a firefly trying to outshine the moon. Heiyaming declares him unfit to be part of the family. He warns that Lord Lei, the leader of Wuling's underworld, is the godfather of his own brother-in-law. The threat of underworld retaliation hangs in the air as Heaming flaunts his connections. Turning his back on the confrontation, Heaming walks away while Uncle Feng lets out a weary sigh. Uncle Feng approaches Heazi, offering words of comfort and urging him to ignore the outburst. Heazi remains unfazed, coldly noting that if Lord Lei truly wants trouble, he will be the one to regret it. Uncle Feng warns Heazi that arrogance leads to regret, insisting such behavior will not be tolerated. Heazi ignores the lecture and retreats to his room, leaving the older men behind. Concerned, Uncle Feng voices his fear that the boy's pride might bring disaster upon the family. Sunrise finds the city quiet as Heazi begins his investigation into Red Wolf's past. Arriving at the old residence, he finds the gate locked and the property completely abandoned. Puzzled by the silence, Heazi wonders where the family could have possibly gone. A local woman informs him that the residents moved out over a year ago. Seeking a lead, Heazi asks if she knows their current location or where they relocated. The woman points him toward a girl who visits the area once or twice a month. Leaving his contact information, Heazi asks the lady to call him if that girl appears standing in the empty street. He questions why the family would vanish so suddenly. Suspicion grows that their disappearance might be tied to the attack on Red Wolf. Meanwhile, at a high-end luxury apartment, a man is waking up in bed with a woman. He is revealed to be Wan Guofeng, enjoying the morning after a restless night. An associate named Kaingzi enters the room, causing the woman to hide under the sheets. Wan Guofeng demands an update on the information he requested regarding a specific target. Kaingzi confirms he has tracked down the background of the kid known as Jiang. Reporting back, he reveals Jiang is a high school dropout whose father died in disgrace. Wan Guofeng seethes with hatred, labeling the boy a lowly toad and a parasitic cockroach. Kaingzi offers to handle the hit, but Wan Guofeng decides to deal with Feng Yian first. Feng Yian sits across from Zhaiming, the tension between them heavy enough to cut. Zhaiming pushes for an answer, questioning why she would choose a stranger over her own future. She remains cold and distant, refusing to entertain his desperate plea for them to run away. Zhaiming grows frantic, reminding Feng Yian that his father saved hers and they owe the Jiang family. Desperate to salvage the situation, he begs her to elope with him before everything falls apart. Feng Yian shuts him down, insisting that breaking her father's promise would be a betrayal of his honor. Zhaiming snaps, shouting that his family's reputation will become the biggest joke in Wuling if she lives. She offers a final, tearful apology to Zhaiming but refuses to budge on her decision, walking away from the table. Feng Yian declares their relationship dead and forces him to face reality. Zhaiming pulls out his phone, his eyes filled with a dangerous resolve as he makes a call, ordering Kaingzi to execute Plan B. He turns his back on the life he once wanted. Meanwhile, Heazi gets the long-awaited tip that the mysterious girl has finally returned. Rushing out of the house, Heazi tells Uncle Feng he has urgent business to attend to. He flags down a taxi in the street, determined to track down the lead. The driver pulls up and beckons Heazi to hop in so they can get moving, jumping into the backseat. Heazi finds himself sharing the ride with two other men. The yellow cab speeds through the city streets, heading toward their destination on Pyang Road. Darkness blankets the sky as the vehicle continues its journey deep into the night. Racing away from the urban sprawl, they cross the bridge toward the outskirts of town. Heazi stares out the window, his mind focused entirely on finally uncovering the truth. Heazi questions the driver about their strange route, but the man remains evasive, insisting that they are almost at their destination and the boss is waiting. Pulling up to a private residence, the taxi engine cuts out in the quiet night. Heazi steps out of the car alone, following the driver's cryptic instructions to go inside, walking toward the entrance. He keeps his guard up while looking for any sign of a trap. Entering the building, Heazi discovers he is not alone in the hallway, finding a man sitting comfortably inside. Heazi demands to know who he is, sipping wine. The man reveals he knows exactly who Heazi is and his connection to the Feng family. Demanding to know the reason for this kidnapping, Heazi stands his ground against the stranger, mocking Heazi's status as a loser and a fake fiancé. The man flaunts his ties to Zhaiming, ordering Heazi to abandon the Feng family and vanish. He makes his threats perfectly clear, signaling for his muscle to intervene. The man watches as his bodyguard steps into position, refusing to back down. Heazi challenges the man with a cold, dangerous glare. Shouting at Kaingzi to handle the situation, the man prepares to watch the beatdown. Kaingzi cracks his knuckles, clearly ready to put his physical power to work. Slamming Heazi into the room, Kaingzi tries to force him into submission. Heazi warns him to step back, revealing he knows Kaingzi is Uncle Feng's own bodyguard, launching a desperate strike. Kaingzi lunges forward to silence the opposition, meeting the attack head-on. Heazi parries the blow and forces Kaingzi to stumble back. Stunned by the raw power behind the block, Kaingzi realizes he is fighting a monster. Delivering a brutal counterstrike, Heazi sends Kaingzi flying across the room, sending him sprawling to the floor. Heazi questions Uncle Feng's choice of muscle, demanding they move the fight to the courtyard. The goons lead the way outside, stepping into the open. Heazi finds himself staring down a pre-dug grave, mocking the setup. Heazi warns them that he prefers staying alive. Refusing to play along with their death threats, Heazi sighs at the unnecessary escalation, swinging a shovel with lethal intent. The attacker charges at Heazi in a blind rage, dodging the crude weapon with ease. Heihazi watches the shovel slice through empty air, effortlessly closing the distance. Heihazi lands a clean strike to end the threat, collapsing onto the dirt. The attacker gasps as the pain registers. Watching his brother fall, the second goon loses his mind and screams in fury. Lunging forward with a blade, he screams his intent to kill Heihazi, sidestepping the wild swing. Heihazi turns the momentum against his opponent, planting a firm kick. Heihazi knocks him straight into the open grave. Laughing at the display, the lead thug promises a slow and painful end, leaping toward Heihazi with a knife. The thug tries to finish the job, grabbing the incoming blade midair. Heihazi stops the attack dead in its tracks. Crushing the weapon in his grip, Heihazi leaves the thug completely defenseless. Launching a devastating final blow, Heihazi sends him crashing into the ground, standing over the wreckage of the entire group. Heihazi coldly eyes the final remaining threat. Looking down at the pile of broken bodies in the pit, Heihazi listens to the groveling, desperate to save his own skin. The survivor blames everything on Wan Jiming, unimpressed by the frantic excuse. Heihazi orders the guy to lead the way to his boss. Scrambling to obey the command, the goon quickly agrees to whatever terms are set. Yet Heihazi shuts him up with a swift strike, leaving him dazed and silent, turning his back on the carnage. Heihazi calmly walks away from the scene of the ambush, leaving the unconscious crew behind. He heads toward the waiting vehicle, forcing the driver to take him to Zioyang Road. Heihazi keeps the pressure on, checking in with his contact. He confirms that the initial threat has been neutralized. Ditching the car at the street entrance, Heihazi warns his driver to stay put. Arriving at a quiet residential building, he approaches a small, lit doorway, receiving directions from a local resident. Heihazi confirms the right house, knocking firmly on the door. He waits for someone to answer the call, meeting a young woman at the threshold. Heihazi asks if she is Sun Xin, denying the identity immediately. She tries to close the door on the stranger. Claiming to be a friend of her brother Jiang Hao, he stops her from leaving, offering a jade pendant as proof. Heihazi shows her the connection to her sibling, catching sight of the familiar item. She asks after her brother's current location, lying through his teeth. Heihazi tells her that her brother is currently working abroad. Relieved by the news about Wan Guofeng, she finally lets her guard down. Inviting Sun Xin to check on her brother, Heihazi leads her toward the room. However, her relief vanishes the second she sees the bed is empty. Before panic can set in, a man named Dongzi bursts in with urgent news. Screaming that something terrible has happened to Sun Lei, he demands attention, forcing her to focus. Dongzi explains that Sun Lei's business was doing just fine despite the success. A group claiming to represent Black Panther showed up demanding compensation. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Sun Xin loses all color in her face. Revealing that Sun Lei took a high-interest loan a year ago, Dongzi confirms it was a trap, driving straight to the passion-flying bar. Heihazi and the group arrive at the Lion's Den, ordering Dongzi to stay outside. Heihazi insists that he and Sun Xin handle the confrontation, stepping through the entrance. They head straight into the heart of the operation. Entering the main floor, they witness a karate master celebrating a victory in the ring. Laughing at the defeated opponent, the fighter basks in the cheers of the room, sitting nearby in a private booth. Brother Bao watches the spectacle while chatting with his guest. Noticing the arrival, a henchman whispers to Brother Bao that Sun Xin is here, turning his attention toward them. Brother Bao signals for the visitors to approach. Walking toward the table, Sun Xin faces the man who destroyed her brother's life. Lighting a cigar, Brother Bao dismisses their pleas and demands payment for Sun Lei's tendons. Stepping between them, Heihazi attempts to negotiate a peaceful resolution for the debt. Mocking the offer, Brother Bao bursts into laughter at the audacity of a civilian standing up to him. Heihazi ups the stakes, offering to kneel and call Brother Bao grandpa if he loses. Accepting the absurd wager, the lone shark calls for a fight in the ring. Leading Sun Xin toward the ropes, they watch as the karate champion prepares for combat. Jumping into the squared circle, Heihazi squares up against the arrogant fighter, signaling the start. The referee gets out of the way, throwing a wild haymaker. The karateka tries to end this match in one swing, narrowly dodging the fist. Heihazi keeps his cool while the opponent misses completely, covering her eyes. Sun Xin watches the exchange from the sidelines in total panic. Vaulting over the bottom rope, Heihazi lands perfectly and stays mobile, keeping his distance. Heihazi analyzes the fighter's sloppy movements. Roaring in frustration, the karate master loses his composure, launching himself forward with a flying kick. The fighter tries to overwhelm Heihazi, stepping back with ease. Heihazi lets the momentum carry his opponent past him, screaming as he resets. The karateka refuses to accept he is missing his mark. Diving in for another desperate strike, the fighter commits everything to the attack. Intercepting the incoming arm, Heihazi finally decides to stop playing around, slamming his elbow into the karateka's ribs. Heihazi lands a brutal counter, following through with an uppercut. Heihazi sends the fighter's head snapping back, delivering a final kick to the midsection. Heihazi leaves the man gasping for air, finishing the sequence with a crushing knee to the face. Heihazi drops the champion to the mat. Keeping the pressure on, Heihazi delivers a clean strike to his opponent's jaw, sending the champion flying backward with a perfectly timed kick. Watching the fighter hit the canvas hard, the audience realizes the fight ended instantly. Brother Jiang stares at his fallen champion, realizing the man is effectively out of commission. Mocking the fallen fighter's supposed expertise, Heihazi questions how someone so weak claims such a high realm. Brother Jiang drops his cigar in disbelief. Unable to process the absolute power gap, Sun Zin watches in awe as Heiazi completely dictates the flow of the ring. Onlookers shift their gaze toward Heiazi with newfound respect and fear. Stepping forward, Brother Jiang begins to realize he is completely cornered. Demanding the original deal be honored, Heiazi pressures Brother Jiang to kneel and accept his defeat. Refusing to back down, Brother Jiang pulls a hidden weapon while Sun Zin cries out a warning. Clutching an apple in his hand, Heiazi remains unfazed by the sudden escalation. Firing his weapon point-blank, Brother Jiang tries to end the confrontation with lethal force. Catching the bullet with nothing but the apple, Heiazi displays terrifying control. Launching a counterattack, Heiazi strikes Brother Jiang with blinding speed. Discarding the ruined apple, Heiazi reveals the flattened bullet casing to his stunned enemy. Reeling from the impact, Brother Jiang drops his weapon as the reality of his situation sets in. Collapsing to the floor, the boss finds himself staring down his own mortality. Panic erupts among the gang members as they realize their leader is finished. Forcing the survivors to beg for mercy, Heiazi stands tall while they plead for their lives. Seizing the opportunity, Heiazi offers to cover up the mess involving Black Panther. Questioning the motive, Uncle Feng demands to know why he should trust such a bold offer. Shaking hands on the deal, Heiazi secures a strategic alliance with the powerful man. Watching him depart, Uncle Feng marks Heiazi as a man he will definitely encounter again. Arriving at the Feng estate the next morning, Heiazi keeps his end of the bargain. Sharing a formal breakfast, the family atmosphere feels surprisingly domestic despite the underlying tension. Complaining about her sister's absence, a guest vents her frustration while the meal continues, offering a sharp reminder to stay quiet. Heiazi shuts down the chatter with a cold look. Finishing his meal, Heiazi announces he is heading out for a walk to clear his head. Stopping him at the door, Uncle Feng calls out to grab his attention. Handing over a document, Uncle Feng asks Heiazi to deliver it to Yian immediately. Checking the address, Heiazi prepares to head toward the Yarnmei Company headquarters. Walking through the corporate lobby, Heiazi draws the attention of the staff, announcing his business at the front desk. Heiazi requests an audience with the president, guiding him toward the private elevators. A receptionist directs Heiazi to the upper floors. Stepping into the lift, Heiazi exchanges a brief nod before the doors slide shut, finding himself in the elevator with a suspicious individual. Heiazi catches a glimpse of the man's face, locking eyes. A sudden realization hits Heiazi as he recognizes the dangerous profile, identifying the man as Black Panther. Heiazi wonders what an rank assassin is doing in this building. Readying himself for a sudden strike, Heiazi prepares to engage the lethal threat. Heiazi enters the office unannounced, catching Yian completely off guard at her desk. Clearly annoyed, Yian snaps at Heiazi for his lack of manners and intrusion, dropping the requested documents on her desk. Heiazi tells her to consider his task finished. Smirking, Heiazi taunts Yian about her icy hospitality toward her own guests, warning him to stay off the streets for his own safety. Yian tries to shut the conversation down. Brushing off her concern as petty, Heiazi turns his back and walks out of the room, heading toward the exit. Heiazi spots a high-end sports car waiting for him outside, slowing his pace. He eyes the vehicle as the driver pulls up to greet him, leaning out the window. The driver invites Heiazi to join him at a local racing circuit. Turning down the offer, Heiazi claims he has no interest in racing or wasting his time. Upping the stakes, the driver promises Heiazi half of the $1 million prize money. Hooked by the payout, Heiazi relents and climbs into the passenger seat for the drive. Speeding away from the curb, they head toward the mountain roads, winding through the treacherous cliffside paths. They push the engine to its absolute limit. Arriving at the track, Heiazi steps out to find a crowd of arrogant racers waiting. Mocking Heiazi as a gold-digging outsider, the group brings up his connection to the Feng family. Losing his cool, Heiazi retorts that he will say exactly what he wants to these guys, drawing a line in the sand. The group prepares to settle the score on the track, pointing out Lei Xiaohu to Heiazi. His contact confirms the man they are here to challenge. Lining up at the starting flags, the racers rev their engines for the high-stakes dash. Lei Xiaohu sneers from his cockpit, promising to show Heiazi the true cost of crossing him. Attention shifts to the other contender, Jin Shixuan, a notorious expert in the racing circuit, showing off his cold confidence. Jin Shixuan readies himself for the start. The countdown begins with 3 fingers held high. 2 fingers follow as the engines roar in anticipation. One final signal drops and the cars launch onto the track. Lei Xiaohu immediately tears ahead, prompting a warning to play it safe. Taunting his pursuers, Lei Xiaohu holds his position with a dangerous grin. Confusion sets in as Lei Xiaohu begins to decelerate, questioning the tactic. The passenger demands to know if they are heading for a crash. Fed up with the hesitation, Heiming shoves his passenger aside to take the wheel, screaming in protest. The passenger fears they are driving straight to their deaths. Accelerating hard, Heiming maneuvers the car through the winding path, spotting the incoming cliff. The passenger begs for an immediate stop. Drifting with expert precision, Heiming hugs the edge of the mountain road, leaving the competition behind. The impossible turn leaves the passenger speechless. Stunned by the display, the passenger admits he underestimated Heiming's driving skills. Tracking the movement from behind, the rivals watch in disbelief. Lei Xiaohu laughs, determined to flip Heiming's car at the next sharp turn. Ignoring the threat, Heiming takes a calm sip of water while warning of the upcoming hazard. Haeaming keeps the pressure on, promising his passenger the real show is just getting started. Lei Zio, who pulls alongside, desperate to shut down any hope of a clean pass, gripping the wheel tight. Haeaming knows there is barely enough room to squeeze through this turn. Metal grinds against metal as the cars collide. Sparks flying across the narrow mountain pass. Realizing the danger, the passenger lets out a sharp cry of alarm. Haeaming refuses to back down, forcing his car into the tightening gap between the guardrail and the rival. Gritting his teeth, Lei Zio, who screams that he would rather die than let this lunatic take the lead. The cars tear down the asphalt, locked in a brutal battle for the front position. Tires struggle for grip as Haeaming clips the edge of the precarious cliffside. Lei Zio, who tries to maintain his line, but the sheer aggression forces him to yield space. Dirt and debris spray into the air, marking the final moments of this high-stakes drift. Impact shakes the frame as Haeaming's car clips the side, glass shattering from the violent contact. Inside the cabin, the force of the collision sends Haeaming reeling against the door. The yellow car loses balance entirely, flipping off the track as Lei Zio, who watches the wreckage fly. Debris settles on the road, leaving Haeaming's vehicle a mangled mess compared to the red car speeding away. Jin Shixuan watches the carnage unfold and mockingly congratulates Haeaming on his so-called championship win. Phone pressed to his ear. Jin Shixuan suggests a celebratory meal to his cousin, ignoring the wreckage behind them. Jin Shixuan insists on a meeting to introduce Brother Crow. Mentioning Jiang Hao as an unwanted guest, Jin Shixuan pressures his cousin to force the issue. Haeaming finally relents with a weary sigh, accepting the invitation to the tense dinner ahead. The medical center looms large, a sterile backdrop for the chaos brewing inside. Lei Zio, who groans in his hospital bed while his father and henchmen hover over his injuries. Fury burns in Lord Lei's eyes as he swears vengeance on the Feng family for this humiliation. Lei Zio, who shifts the blame onto Jiang Hao, painting the guy as the mastermind behind his wreck. Lord Lei is not wasting time, ordering his men to eliminate Jiang Hao before the next day begins. Lei Zio, who grins through the pain, imagining the gruesome fate awaiting his rival. The scene shifts to the Jinghua Hotel, where the stage is set for a high-stakes dinner meeting. Haeaming arrives with Jin Shixuan to face the music, stepping into a room thick with tension. Brother Crow greets them with a facade of hospitality, extending a hand that reeks of ulterior motives. Everyone takes their seats around the table, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken threats and calculated stares. Brother Crow keeps his eyes locked on Jiang Hao, mocking the man's humble appearance with a sneer. Haeaming attempts to navigate the social minefield. But the tension spikes when a toast is demanded. Rejecting the offer, a guest slams a bottle down, the liquid spilling with aggressive precision. Golden spirits overflow from the glass, a clear sign that this dinner is about to devolve. Brother Crow interprets the refusal as a direct insult. His demeanor shifting from fake polite to dangerous. Leaning in, he challenges the defiance with a proposal to share the drink. Another associate pipes up, throwing accusations about ruined family alliances and the Feng family's reputation. Keeping his cool, Jiang Hao stares down the provocation, refusing to bow to their petty games. The air crackles as the antagonist lights a cigarette, smoke curling around his taunting expression. Tensions hit a breaking point as a challenge is issued, with shots of alcohol serving as the currency for their looming conflict. Jiang Hao slides the bottle across the table, putting the pressure right back on Brother Crow. Everyone watches as Brother Crow stares down the challenge, his reputation for being a human winepress on the line, daring him to finish the heavy pour. Jiang Hao waits for the inevitable move. Murmurs ripple through the room as the onlookers realize the sheer volume of alcohol involved in this standoff. Brother Crow lets out a jagged laugh, mocking the attempt to intimidate him with mere spirits. Tilting his head back, he drains the bottle in one continuous, aggressive motion, staggering back as the liquid hits his system. Brother Crow tries to maintain his dignity while clearly reeling. Bystanders start calling out the trick, realizing Jiang Hao has been playing them from the start. Veins bulging in his neck, Brother Crow snaps as the reality of his failure finally sets in. Tossing the empty glass aside, Jiang Hao remains unfazed by the sudden burst of rage, lunging forward in a drunken fury. Brother Crow hurls the bottle straight at Jiang Hao, sidestepping the projectile with ease. Jiang Hao watches it sail past his shoulder, catching the bottle midair with a swift flick of his wrist. He reverses the momentum. Slamming the glass into Brother Crow's head, Jiang Hao sends him crashing hard into the floor. Chaos erupts around the table as the subordinates scramble to help their fallen leader, clutching his bleeding forehead. Brother Crow bellows for reinforcements and orders his men to bring weapons. Associates pull Jiang Hao back, warning him that he has just crossed a line he cannot walk back from. Ignoring the panic, Jiang Hao calmly asks if he can finally finish his meal in peace. Letting out a long, weary sigh, he realizes there is no escaping the impending brawl. The doors burst open as a small army of armed thugs floods the room to settle the score. Reinforcements swarm the room, but the mood shifts the second a specific fighter steps forward. Machete Chen enters the fray, instantly silencing the room with his legendary underworld reputation. Standing tall with a cold stare, he looks ready to carve through anyone in his path. An associate tries to push him toward a hospital for his injuries, but Chen brushes the concern aside, demanding only the chance to finish Jiang Hao himself. He signals his men to back off, eyes locked on Jiang Hao. Chen promises a brutal afterlife for his perceived disrespect, drawing a blade with lethal intent. He lunges to end this one-sided confrontation once and for all. Steel clashes against the chair as Jiang Hao blocks the strike with effortless precision. Locking eyes with the attacker, Jiang Hao reveals a gaze that stops Chen cold. Recognition hits the machete master like a freight train as he realizes exactly who he just challenged, collapsing to his knees in terror. Chen begs for mercy while identifying Jiang Hao by name. Brother Crow loses his mind at the sudden surrender, screaming at Chen to stop being a coward. Snapping back at Crow, Chen recounts the time he saw Jiang Hao effortlessly kill a Japanese samurai. Jiang Hao does not even stand up, keeping his composure while the room spirals into panic, crawling forward on the floor. Chen repeatedly thanks his savior for sparing his miserable life. Rising from his seat, Jiang Hao tells the group to beat it so he can finish his dinner. Chen scrambles to obey, ordering his men to clear out before they make things worse. Terrified that their own master will have them killed for crossing Jiang Hao, the thugs turn to flee. Brother Crow screams in frustration, desperate to buy back his pride with $1 million bounty. Greed instantly replaces fear in the eyes of his men, setting the stage for a desperate final stand. The thugs throw their lives away, rushing toward Jiang Hao in a desperate bid for the bounty. Weapons clash against an impossible wall of skill as Jiang Hao makes his move. One lethal strike sends a challenger sprawling, the rest of the pack recoiling in pure terror. Warning them that further disrespect means a death sentence, Jiang Hao forces the remaining thugs into a retreat. Machete Chen drags his wounded body out of the room, nursing his injuries and his bruised ego, swearing revenge as he limps away. Chen refuses to let this humiliation slide. Meanwhile, a news alert pops up on a phone detailing the brutal murder of a top-tier female student. In a quiet room nearby, a man in a white robe relaxes on a couch with a loaded handgun. Sipping wine with a sinister smirk, he compares the victim to a more mature target he prefers. A phone rings on the table, displaying an incoming call that breaks the chilling silence. Picking up the device, the man confirms he is still hunting for the killer of his brother. Sitting in his car, he dismisses the recent news about missing women as a distraction from his real work. Updates from the Black Butterfly reveal that high-level assassins have entered Huaxia territory to hunt him down. Realizing Zhuo Kibai is making a run for it, the man vows that escape is impossible. He brushes off warnings about drawing too much attention, confident in his own twisted plans. A subordinate enters the room, gun in hand, and greets the man as his second master. The second master invites his visitor to sit, finally ready to address the pressing situation. Talk turns to the mysterious fighter who killed his brother, a man known as the live-in son-in-law of the Feng family. Mocking the idea that a mere son-in-law could hold real power, the second master scoffs at the rumors. He brings up a photo of a woman on his phone, the true target of his obsession. Staring at the photo of Jiang Hao's fiancée, the second master plans to break the man by destroying everything he loves. Completely oblivious to the threat, Jiang Hao arrives at a high-end antique gallery to pick up a gift. Stepping into the Longyan Pavilion, he ignores the opulent surroundings to focus on finding a masterwork painting. Browsing the curated collection on the 5th floor, he drifts past several priceless artifacts with a casual eye. Stopping in front of a landscape, Jiang Hao studies the brushwork of the legendary Zhang Guiying with sharp precision. Staff members approach to offer assistance, unaware that their prized masterpiece is under intense scrutiny, discussing the piece's pedigree. The employees boast about its authenticity while Jiang Hao keeps his observations to himself, calling out the fraud. He announces to the shocked room that the painting is an obvious forgery. Demanding to speak with the manager, Jiang Hao laughs off the clerk's desperate claims that their reputation is impeccable, veins bulging in his forehead. The clerk insists that their shop would never risk their status on a fake. Refusing to back down, Jiang Hao points to the telltale flaws and demands the promised triple compensation. Persistent in his accusation, he mocks the clerk's defense of the store's time-honored brand. Trembling with rage, the clerk reaches his breaking point. Still adamantly denying any possibility of a counterfeit, Jiang Hao does not care about their history, only that the boss comes down to face the consequences immediately. Surging with internal energy, he decides that a polite request is no longer the right approach. Vaulting toward the wall, Jiang Hao rips the canvas right off its mount with a display of raw power. Panic erupts among the staff as he ignores their protests, intent on forcing an audience with the owner, clutching the rolled-up painting like a weapon. He strides toward the staircase leading to the restricted level. Upstairs, the gallery boss remains comfortably seated, completely unaware that his deception is about to be shattered. Kicking the door open, Jiang Hao confronts the men inside, determined to expose the truth right at the source. Jiang Hao drops the painting on the table, declaring right to the gallery boss that he's here for a refund. The elder scoffs at the accusation of fraud, claiming his shop's reputation is far too solid for such nonsense. Surrounding staff members circle in, warning Jiang Hao that he's crossed a line and needs to apologize before things get ugly. Standing his ground, Jiang Hao challenges them to reappraise the work if they really believe it's authentic. Taking the bait, the old man pulls out a magnifying glass to inspect the brushwork for any signs of forgery, mocking Jiang Hao's confidence. The boss asks if he's truly prepared to stand by such a bold claim, gesturing for the other experts to join in. The boss demands they confirm the painting's legitimacy to silence this youngster. The experts hover over the piece. insisting that Zhang Guiyang's work is unmistakable and completely genuine. Losing his cool, the boss calls Jiang Hao an arrogant brat who clearly lacks the expertise to judge such a masterpiece, ignoring their insults. Jiang Hao points directly at the canvas, telling them exactly where to look for the error. Zooming in on the fine details, he highlights the specific spot where the brushstrokes betray the forgery. The boss's face drops as he realizes the copy is technically superior to the original, a flaw so subtle it almost looks perfect, desperate to save face. The old man grabs the phone and orders his team to bring out an authentic painting for a direct comparison. Placing the two works side by side, the group realizes the style is identical, but the fakes are dangerously close to the real thing. Passing the magnifying glass over, Jiang Hao invites them to see the truth for themselves. Staring through the lens, the gallery boss breaks into a cold sweat while admitting the copy somehow surpassed the original. Humiliation sets in for the entire staff as they are forced to acknowledge they've been selling fakes for decades, pressing his advantage. Jiang Hao demands the triple compensation they promised earlier. Agreeing to the terms to avoid further scandal, the boss offers a trade of equal value instead of a direct cash payout. Jiang Hao smiles, noting the boss's eagerness to avoid a total fallout by settling their debt right now. Jiang Hao seals the deal with a calculated grin, finally bringing the boss into his circle of influence. Watching him walk away, the onlookers marvel at how easily he leveraged a fortune just to buy a connection. They realize that investing in someone with Jiang Hao's potential is the smartest move for their long-term survival. Returning to the Feng family dinner, Jiang Hao finds the atmosphere thick with tension as he sits down to eat. Setting a calligraphy piece on the table, he reveals his latest acquisition from Longyan Pavilion to the curious elders. Uncle Feng eyes the scroll with deep skepticism, warning that a green kid like him is bound to get scammed in such a dangerous market. Keeping his cool, Jiang Hao reassures them that he's already verified the item's authenticity. Yian jumps in to defend him, mentioning a race win as the source of his newfound wealth. Her mother snaps back, cutting her off and refusing to entertain any more of these wild stories. Ignoring the hostility, Jiang Hao calmly explains how he turned the gallery's forgery payout into this unique find. The mother refuses to believe a word, accusing him of being a pathological liar who is not fit for their daughter. Tired of the constant disrespect, Jiang Hao stands up, declaring he is finished and heading off to his room. Feng family members exchange frustrated glances as the confrontation hits a breaking point. Tension radiates from the table as Jiang Hao turns his back on their accusations. One of the men privately acknowledges his debt to Jiang Hao's father, vowing to protect the kid despite the family's disapproval. Outside the mansion, the quiet grounds mask the shifting power dynamics happening within the walls. Meanwhile, an investigator reports back to his master about the progress of the Jiang Hao file, confirming the target's identity as the Feng family's live-in son-in-law. The agent awaits further orders. The master weighs the information, acknowledging that a man reaching the stage of blood and cultivation so young is a rare find indeed. Despite the family's dismissive attitude, they realize Jiang Hao is hiding a level of strength that could change everything for the Fengs. Han Feng gets his marching orders from the elder, tasked with delivering an invitation from Elder Zhou. A tense family meeting ensues where the Feng elders confirm the Zhou family banquet invitation for next month. Questions fly about why the Zhou family would specifically invite the entire Feng clan to this event. The messenger remains tight-lipped and aggressive, brushing off their confusion with a sharp counter-question. Dismissing their concerns, he pivots to a demand about why Jiang Hao is not present for the discussion. Persistence from the family leads them to press for the real reason behind this sudden, high-profile invitation. Irritation flares in the messenger as he continues to deflect their inquiries with cold, calculated vagueness, repeating his demand. He insists on knowing Jiang Hao's whereabouts before he loses his patience completely. The Feng family members start to suspect the invitation is a ruse to get closer to Jiang Hao. Han Feng drops the facade, mocking the family for trying to leverage Jiang Hao's growing reputation for their own gain. Elsewhere, Jiang Hao sits down for a quiet meal, completely unaware of the storm brewing back at the manor. His peaceful lunch is interrupted when a mysterious stranger in a cap and sunglasses slides into his booth. Intensity radiates from the newcomer as he stares Jiang Hao down with obvious, lethal intent. The stranger calls out Jiang Hao for eating his steamed buns without permission, setting a hostile tone for the encounter, demanding repayment for the stolen food. The man makes it clear this is about more than just breakfast. He probes Jiang Hao about his brother's identity, cornering him in the middle of the crowded restaurant, revealing himself as a member of the Black Panther gang. The man swears vengeance for his brother's death. The Black Panther vows to make Jiang Hao pay tenfold. Ignoring any mention of the Feng family's protection, chaos spills over as he aggressively confronts Jiang Hao, accusing him of corruption and ruining the Feng family name. Han Feng warns the target to quit running with these dangerous thugs if he wants to survive the coming fallout. The Feng family members lose their cool, demanding to know how anyone dares spread such slander. Zhang Hao does not back down, pointing out that whether it is slander or not, they're definitely involved in drugs. Walking away from the confrontation, he leaves the frustrated duo behind to stew in their own anger. They refuse to let it go, calling him a coward and vowing to teach him a lesson. An aggressive guy in a hoodie steps up, urging his companion to follow and settle the score. Zhang Hao casually strolls down the narrow alley, unaware that he's walking straight into a trap. Sense of danger kicks in as he realizes he's being tailed by the angry group. Delivery vans screech to a halt, blocking his path forward with a sudden, coordinated stop. Thugs armed with metal pipes step out, surrounding him in the cramped industrial space. Brother Crazy emerges as the ringleader, stepping into view with his goons close behind. The woman from earlier watches, mocking the situation and noting how much she hates her brother-in-law. Tension climbs as she points out that Brother Crazy is Lord Lei's #1 blade. Despite her hatred, she realizes that if Brother Crazy kills Zhang Hao, her sister is in serious trouble. She hesitates to intervene, deciding to let them fight it out and see if Zhang Hao survives. Brother Crazy draws a long, sharp blade, pressing it toward Zhang Hao with lethal intent, demanding repayment for the car and the injury to Xiaohu. He promises to sever Zhang Hao's tendons. Zhang Hao stands his ground, telling the thugs to bring it on if they want to fight. Brother Crazy lunges forward with the weapon raised, ready to end the conflict in a single strike. Watching from the sidelines, the woman winces as the violence finally erupts. Zhang Hao counters with a lightning-fast kick, slamming his foot directly into Brother Crazy's jaw. Brother Crazy goes flying back, his body skidding across the pavement like a ragdoll. The remaining thugs scramble to scoop up their leader, panicked and shouting for a quick retreat. Shock registers on Brother Crazy's face as he realizes he is completely outmatched by this guy. His men haul him away toward the waiting van, desperate to escape the scene of the humiliation. Zhang Hao watches them peel out of the alley, leaving him alone in the quiet street. The woman from the sidelines stares at him, her composure finally cracking under the weight of the moment. He turns his cold, lethal gaze toward her, issuing a sharp warning about being seen together again. Fear flashes across her face as she realizes the tables have completely turned in his favor. She drops to her knees in a desperate plea for mercy, swearing she will never dare to cross him. Later that day, Zhang Hao walks into the corporate building, his mind clearly on the next move. He strides into the office with purpose, slamming the door behind him to ensure total privacy. The woman is already sitting at her desk, looking up as he makes his abrupt entrance. She demands to know why he is there, her tone defensive but laced with lingering tension. Zhang Hao cuts straight to the point, declaring that staying alone in a hotel is no longer an option. She snaps back that his status as the Feng family's live-in son-in-law gives him no authority over her. He ignores her outburst, cold and collected, as he reminds her exactly what her position entails. The woman scoffs at his audacity, pointing out that his attempts to leverage her father's debt are transparent. Zhang Hao presses the issue of their marriage, asking if her resistance is truly that deep-seated. She does not hold back, admitting that she would honestly choose death over being his wife. Undeterred by her spite, he makes a final, solemn vow to release her from the marriage oath for good. Yian demands the signed annulment papers before she will believe he's actually walking away. Zhang Hao does not hesitate to sign the agreement and hand it over. He tells her to head home safely while he finishes up his work. Meanwhile, Brother Xiaoming gets a call from Yian, confirming she's finally breaking things off with Zhang Hao. Back at the dinner table, the guys wonder why Yian is so late getting back. Zhang Hao tries calling her, but the line is dead, which feels immediately wrong. Out on the street, Yian is walking with Brother Xiaoming when the vibe turns dark. He insists on walking her back, his hands getting a little too comfortable. Yian reminds him that she's newly single and wants to keep things proper for now. Xiaoming ignores her boundaries, already talking about their wedding night like he's won a prize. Their walk is cut short when a mysterious figure steps out of the shadows to block their path. The stranger just grins, clearly not interested in introductions. He lunges forward with unnatural speed, forcing them to scatter in a panic. Brother Xiaoming tries to defend himself but is quickly overwhelmed by a precise strike. Yian suffers the same fate, unable to dodge the attacker's pinpoint accuracy. Both of them freeze up instantly, their bodies completely locked in place. Xiaoming realizes in horror that the guy is using advanced acupoint techniques. The attacker confirms the method with a smug laugh, showing he's clearly a pro. He drags the incapacitated pair toward a waiting vehicle under the night sky. Second Master watches as his men haul Yian and Xiaoming into the factory for their next move. Brother Xiaoming realizes he's been led into a trap by someone he recognizes. The captors shove him and Yian forward, treating them like worthless cargo. They are forced into the corner as the realization hits that they're being used to target Zhang Hao. Xiaoming tries to flex his connections to Lord Lei to buy their way out, but the kidnapper shuts him up with a swift, brutal strike to the ear. A small blade flashes through the air, drawing blood before Xiaoming can even process the pain. He screams while clutching his mangled ear, desperate to threaten the guy with legal consequences. The attacker just laughs off the threat, completely unbothered by the law. He looms over Yian with the knife, casually mentioning his past violent crimes to break her spirit. Xiaoming completely folds, begging for his life and promising to do whatever the man demands. The kidnapper admits he's been waiting for this exact moment to strike. He reveals that he's actually the brother of someone Zhang Hao already took down. Yeon and Jiming are horrified to learn this guy is linked to the underworld boss Black Panther. Jiming tries to goad the attacker into attacking Jiang Hao, hoping to shift the target. The man laughs at the suggestion, fully intending to make Jiang Hao beg for mercy. He hands a phone to Jiming, ordering him to call Jiang Hao and lure him into the trap. The kidnapper grabs Yeon's chin, leering at her while she fights to pull away. She promises he'll pay for this, but he only seems more entertained by her defiance. He finally makes the call to Jiang Hao, taunting him with the fact that Yeon is now his property. Jiang Hao picks up the phone, his calm demeanor instantly replaced by a cold, lethal promise to make them regret this move. Jiang Hao does not waste a single second, discarding his jacket and heading straight out the window, launching himself into the night sky with lethal intent toward the kidnapper's stronghold, and vaulting over the rooftops at breakneck speed to reach Yeon before the situation escalates further.